Hello, everybody. Welcome to our weekly baseball chat. Talking all things Buccos here. Hope and happy 4th of July to all of you. Andrew Destin here, of course, with our very own Jason Mackey. And Jason, a lot of family business going on each of our ends. I know you got yours around you. I just sent my dad off to the grocery store here in beautiful Los Angeles. A lot going on the family front for us.
I know. I shooed my family off from my hotel room in beautiful Erie. Bustling metropolis Erie, bustling metropolis Los Angeles. I really don't see any difference. No, so I had a couple of days off. We jetted up here, not completely disappearing, but I love Erie, man. People may think I'm nuts for this, but it was. We went on a really fun vacation with my dad before he passed. It was the last thing we ever did, and so, or like the last vacation we ever took with him. So we try to take the kids up here every summer for a couple of days, and got away. And yeah, I just shooed my wife and kids off, or they left me, whatever you want to say, to go explore. So let's talk some ball, man. I like it.
Yeah. Hey, we got 20, 30 minutes. We'll maximize it. You'll get back to the family. I'll go for a walk with my dad. We got a lot to get to. So, but
Right.
most importantly to get to, MLB draft. We got Pirates picking 1-1 here in less than a week. Last we talked on the show was a lot about Skenes Cruz. Feels like a good place to pick up again here. What are you most looking forward to, I guess, with that 1-1 pick? And I guess to open it up in general, what are we looking at here with the draft?
I'm not looking forward to anything. I'm actually scared to death of it, being totally honest with you. And here's, we can explain this stuff. I was talking to somebody who's pretty darn close to the situation that he's seen every kid at the top of the draft, knows them quite well. I was talking to him on Saturday night, and just sort of going through possibilities, what you think the Pirates might do, et cetera. And very real, like, I think they're going to go with the high school kid. I think they're going to take Max Clark. Like, that's the sort of rub around this thing right now. So I'm like, okay, all right. And then I started calling some other scouts and texting with some people, and let's be honest. Nobody knows exactly what they're going to do, right? But there's a healthy skepticism or thought out there that, like, they've poured a lot of effort into Wyatt Langford, Walker Jenkins, Max Clark. It's not a given that they're going to take Paul Skenes or Dylan Cruz. We talked to Ben Sherrington on Saturday, and he said a couple times, like, our list is much wider than two guys. Now, I do leave open the possibility that this is the week before the draft. Sometimes weird stuff happens. Things often change at a rapid pace, and who the heck knows what happens when they're on the clock for that pick. But I do think, and I wrote this morning, like, people just need to be aware of the possibility that I think a lot of, like me, a lot of people, you're hearing things about their draft. 2 weeks ago, I think it was assumed it was Skenes or Cruz. I just don't think that's as much of an assumption right now.
Right. Yeah, no, and it's a fascinating thing because you look at some of these other prospects, right? Like a Wyatt Langford. Played for a really good team in Florida, is a very, highly thought of prospect in his own right. I understand, and there are going to be those who say it needs to be either Skenes or Cruz and nobody else, matters. But I think that's a little bit too simplistic. That's maybe not looking at the whole depth of it. And again, this is a very different draft than 2 years ago when you went Davis 1-1 and you wanted to diversify the pool money that you could spend. But right, that has to be at least a consideration, something to talk about in light of these other prospects. Because yes, it's a top two guys in Skenes and Cruz. These are big names, but it's not just a good good draft because of two guys. It's a good draft because the group right underneath that, hypothetically, if we're creating hierarchies here, like the group beneath that, you mentioned all those names. There's some legitimate talent there. So I don't think, to your point, it should be such a foregone conclusion of how do you go after about it? Is it Skenes or is it Cruz? Like, the larger discussion, kudos to the Pirates for keeping that dialogue open, because I think that's warranted. I don't think it should be such a foregone.
No, there's no kudos. Take your kudos and go sprinkle them on the streets of Los Angeles, friend. I don't want your kudos. I hate it. I really do, Andrew. I hate it. Like, I guess I understand if you're at the top, and this is like my rebuttal to that. Of course, you're going to look at other guys. Of course, you would be silly not to. But at the end of the day, if you want to compare this draft to what they did in 2021, in 2021, there was no clear, like, there's this group and then everybody, or I shouldn't say that. There weren't tiers the way there are here. Like, there's very clearly Cruz and Skenes and then the other three. That's not to say that the other three are bad players, but you're getting more. You're getting guys who are more major league ready, at least when you look at like Jenkins or Clark with the two LSU kids. Now, Wyatt Langford's probably a tweener. I think he's reasonably ready, maybe not next year, but like, okay, that's a middle ground. In 2021, I remember that there's like a lot of high school shortstops. There were similar guys. Do you like Jordan Lawler? Do you like Marcelo Meyer? I'm trying to think. Brady House was another one of them. And then you go with a college catcher. Like, okay, I think that was Rocker and Leiter, and they had certain asks. Like, it wasn't that there was one or two guys that were discernibly better from the pack, and that's my issue with this draft. There are one or two guys that are discernibly better from the pack. Now, all of that being said, if their asks for like a bonus are just astronomical, if you see the Nationals, they wind up signing Skenes, and I don't know where. Well, I guess the Nationals, if they get Cruz, they probably end up signing him. But like if you see those bonuses and they're like 9.8, 10 plus, something like that, and that's why we found out that the Pirates passed, because they didn't want to lump all of their allotted money into it. I guess I get that. But we don't have that piece of information now. So right now I hate it, but I don't know. With some context, I guess I could kind of understand.
Yeah, it's a tough one because you have. What's the total number we're working with here, right? It's a 16 million or whatever the number might be in total. I understand what the thought process is there, but there's also, to the point, I know an MLB draft is very different from any other draft. It certainly is, in any other right for any other professional sport. But at some point, you just kind of have to say, get the best guy available, right? You're not playing for best fit, certainly. This isn't the NFL or the NBA in that aspect. It's more similar to the NHL in the sense that you're projecting guys out. But at some point, you have to say, there's two bona fide, can't-miss guys. Sure thing prospects, 1A, 1B. At some point, you got to just throw up your hands and say, we're choosing the guy we like the best of the two, whatever the pretty penny, right?
So when we talked to Charrington on Saturday, Andrew, he talked a lot about best player available. It doesn't necessarily matter where we are as a team right now. Still, the best thing to do for any major league team is to stick with the best player available. So if you're going to stick with the best player available, I don't understand how that's Max Clark. I guess you could make the argument that like in 5 years, he's going to be a better player than Cruz or Skenes, but I'm not buying that argument. I would rather have one of those two guys that I know that can help me reasonably soon. And that's a pretty darn high ceiling with both those guys. If you're comfortable taking the risk as a pitcher, which I would be, to be fair, like that's the one I would take. I'd try to get a little bit of a discount on Skenes, but either way, man, like I hope it's one of those two, and I'm fearful of how furious the fan base is going to be if they don't take Cruz or Skenes.
Yeah, and I think it's at this point too, it's like kind of just have your pick, right? If you're thinking the outfield depth, I know we've talked about that of, like the minor league system isn't chock full of guys in the outfield, but then there's the discussion about developing arms. Like, to me, a bona fide frontline guy, they've done it before with Cole. Like, I sit in the camp of Skenes. I still think they go with Cruz. I don't feel as confident as I do now as I did a week ago, but like, who knows how this goes? But to me, a guy who throws 100 consistently, what he did in a tough conference in the SEC pitching wise, to me, it's Skenes. But neither here nor there. I'm not the one making these decisions, which I'll gladly say that.
I think people would understand if it was Skenes. Like as much crying as there is about Dylan Cruz, there's a pretty darn good argument for Paul Skenes. And you can say like what this kid could be is something that we would never afford or never pay for or whatever. And like just a premium arm. He's being called the best college pitcher since Steven Strasburg. And like, I know people will immediately take that and say, oh, well, he's destined to have arm trouble. Not necessarily. He could just be what Strasburg never quite was able to be, or was only occasionally that when he was healthy. I have a tough time turning down pitching that good. I'm with you.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about guys who might be becoming Pirates. Let's pivot to people who are still Pirates and seem to be for the foreseeable future. I hope I did a good job pivoting there. I'm not
that was
positive.
Great. That was so smooth.
Oh, thank you, Jason. All right, ball's in your court, man. Then we'll pivot it back. But Andrew McCutchen, Bob Nutting, let's get into that. Nutting basically saying this guy's here as long as he wants. McCutchen had made that pretty darn clear. Take me through that. Take me through what we heard from Bob.
Yeah, and good on Bob, good on the Pirates. It's the exact right call. Andrew McCutchen means so much to this franchise, and I think I've said it before, but I'll say it here now just to make sure. Covering Kutch and covering the return of Kutch, because obviously I didn't do it the first time, is something that I absolutely cherish in my career, and I love every additional layer or chapter to this story, and I think this is a really important one. Not only Andrew McCutchen coming back and playing so darn well, which he's done, and starting to get more and more recognition for it. There was some pretty good chatter around the All-Star game about him potentially making it. I still don't think he would be out of place. We'll see what happens there. But, I mean, Kutch should never play for another team. Kutch should be able to play in Pittsburgh for as long as he wants to. And that's finally, that's what Bob Nutting said. And that has been my understanding. It was my understanding from the moment that Nutting, I'll say Nutting signed McCutchen, but the Pirates signed McCutchen, and Nutting was the one that worked it out. One of the very first discussions he had with anybody that people had with him was like, we can't trade him, right? And he's like, oh yeah, no, we're not doing that. Andrew is here as long as Andrew wants to be here, and sure, Kutch could wake up one day and say, I want to go chase a ring or be in the playoffs or something like that. And I'm sure the Pirates would just honor his wishes and do that. But being around him, you've been around him, there's none of that. He likes being here. He likes showing his kids what daddy did. And man, I get that. I'm so much on a lower scale than Kutch, but it's the coolest thing in the world that my kids are getting old enough to see what I do for a living. I can only imagine when that involves, daddy was an MVP. Daddy was a Silver Slugger. Daddy won Gold Gloves. Look at what he did in 2013. Look at what these teams mean, and that's awesome. And he's soaking that up, and he should be allowed. And he's producing, and this team values him, and they appreciate him. He has a voice in that clubhouse already. It's the most powerful voice there is. It's not close. What Kutch says goes, and he keeps things light. He keeps them focused. I just like it so much, and I'm so glad that they said it, because no, he should never play for another team. He should retire here whenever he feels like retiring.
Yeah. And I mean, you, Brent, mentioned the clubhouse stuff. I mean, the presence that he involves there has been huge. That's been my biggest takeaway from him. But I mean, the on-field results, that speaks for itself for what he's done as a DH. And that's battling through injury, stuff that's been, giving him a hard time, whether that's the elbow, whatever that may be. He's playing through it, and you could make an argument, I think you could at the very least, but given what he's doing at the plate, that this is a guy who is knocking on the door of deserving a shot to be in Seattle in a week. That's certainly subject to debate, but this, I keep going back to this. I'm probably beating a dead horse, but anybody who in the winter said this was a PR move or the Pirates trying to make a play, how long ago does that feel now? This is somebody who has been huge on the field and also in the clubhouse, like we've both mentioned. And I mean, there shouldn't be a surprise when people read your superlatives. And team MVP so far, he's been huge, and he can be here as long as they want him, or as long as he wants.
You could make Kutch into a lot of different things from this first half, man. I mean, I did a best moment thing in there, and probably his 2000th hit should have been mentioned or should have been up there higher, at least an honorable mention. But yes, I agree with you. It's just been so darn fun. And yeah, the idea that this is some sort of PR move, get out of here. You know what? Even if it is, Andrew McCutchen deserves that right. Let's say Andrew McCutchen wasn't very good and texted Bob Nutting and was like, hey, I want to spend one more year in Pittsburgh and finish here. I don't care if he was the worst baseball player ever. That dude deserves it. He deserves a victory lap. And this is the furthest thing from a victory lap, and he's also the furthest thing from done. The way Kutch is going, man, I don't understand why put a limit on him at this point? Why? Yeah. He figured out the DH thing. I think he'll get back in right field eventually. They're trying to be cautious with his elbow and get him healed up and whatever. But he can do this for a couple more years. He's taking great at bats. There's still power. There's still speed. I really, really, really like the way he's played this season.
Yeah, no, and it's we kind of tipped our hand there with the way he's been playing, perhaps being deserving of being an all-star. Let's get into some of the other guys, or at least as of right now, the other guy who right now has been tabbed an all-star for the Pirates, Mitch Keller, of course, getting the nod there as the Pirates representative right now. I'll ask you, Jason, then give you my thoughts on this. Keller getting the all-star nod. Agreed? Did they get it right? Is this the right guy for the Pirates?
I mean, I will never say a negative word about Mitch in that context. He deserves it. I'm happy for him and all that stuff. Not to take anything away from Mitch. David Bednar should be there too. I think it's a flawed format, really. It's not like anybody looked at Bednar and say, well, he's not good enough. But once you go through and say, we got to have one on every team, and, Mitch deserves it. Objectively, he's been one of the best starting pitchers in the National League. He had a run of 3 bad starts. If you take that out, I mean, Mitch Keller's 2 2 or 3 best starters in the national. Like, we could talk about him starting the All-Star game. Forget even being there. So, yeah, I mean, I love the idea that Mitch made it. He deserves it. I'm super happy for him. And that's not like a rooting, oh, you're some sort of homer. It's just coming from a place like, I've seen this kid at 0. I've seen him less than 0 getting banished to the minor leagues, and how beat up he was and how many people told him he sucked. And, he just kept going and he kept working his tail off. And like, I respect the heck out of that. I respect the heck out of the work ethic, the way Mitch has kept his head, the way he's always been honest, genuine, accessible, respectful to us, those of us doing our jobs every day. I really like the kid personally. And when you see somebody like that finally find success, I don't know how you can't be happy for him. So yes, a billion %, Andrew. I love that he's going. I think he deserves it. I just hope that, something ends up happening. I do get the sense, and this is purely just my gut, but one more Pirate will be in there. I fully believe that somebody's going to pull out, somebody's not going to be able to go, and it's going to be either Kutch or Bednar joining them, I think.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Totally agreed on Keller. I think just given it, and it's twofold, right? It's not just the performance, but it's also, I think it's a little bit harder to quantify versus just a simple stat like WAR or something like that. Like, Keller has been so huge for a rotation that has been effective this year for the most part by and large, but has also dealt with injuries, and Mitch has been the guy who consistently has been giving you innings, been consistently giving you good outings for the most part, aside from the 3 that you mentioned. So like, within that context, it's hard for me to imagine where this team would be without him. Just in the sense of, like, you go back to May, during that slide in May, obviously his complete game shutout against the Rockies didn't, prevent them from having a really rough month. But like, what if that doesn't happen? Does it spiral even more? Like, what is the context of that game not happening? Or, him giving them a chance in Miami and almost getting them out of that skid, but they come back and win the next game, right? Like,
Yes.
There's things that are hard to quantify of, like, this guy has been their bona fide ace. He's been their stopper when, for lack of a better phrase, shit's hit the fan. Like, he's been huge for them in that aspect. So yeah. What's that?
All you got to do is say earmuffs.
Earmuffs. I should have.
You know what that's from?
It's a movie. I don't know which one.
Andrew.
All right, give it to me.
Old school.
Is it old school? You know what's bad? I actually have watched that movie. It's what Luke Wilson. No, I'm saying it's bad that I didn't know the reference.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm mad at myself. I'm like, I watched that with my dad like 5 years ago. Yeah.
I will joke with my mom sometimes about like my college education and be like, you have no idea how many times I watched that movie in college. Because I mean, we would watch it on like bus trips to baseball games and stuff. And she's like, oh yeah, great. Glad we paid for your college. Glad we spent so much money on college so you could watch Old School.
Come on, we're going streaking. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Through the quad into the gymnasium. All you got to do is say earmuffs, and you can say, the line. All right.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, that's just to summarize those thoughts. And I totally agreed with you on the point of it's going to be one more guy. I think it's Bednar too. I mean, I would love to see, for his sake, Kutch there too. I don't know if it's if the numbers game is going to work out that well. And then, it's also the factor of he has been limited defensively this year in terms of how much he's played in the outfield. So you're kind of evaluating that guy just based on the hitting, and there's plenty of deserving candidates at DH too. Not to discredit anything that Kutch has done. It's just a crowded field there versus, I think, of the closers, Bednar has truly been elite there this year for the Pirates.
Yeah. And I've had this brought up a few times because last year they did like the legacy picks or whatever with Albert Pujols and Miguel Cabrera. And that's a great idea, but they have to be, it's my understanding, handpicked by Rob Manfred or his, people in his office. And it's generally like a special case kind of thing. It's not like, we have to have one legacy pick each year. No, it's still possible. And I thought about that. I'm like, is McCutchen deserving of that? But and I think he's deserving. The Mets made a trade, but that's not us. Just typical beat writer stuff where your phone's always having alerts. Anyway, no. So I thought, could McCutchen end up as like a legacy pick? But honestly, in the National League, if you're going to pick one guy that like probably otherwise doesn't deserve to be here, but he's on his way out and has done this stuff before, it'd be Adam Wainwright, right? Like they'd bring Waino in, and if we knew this was Kutch's last year, which he's already gone on record saying it's not, I think they'll probably kick the can, and it'll have to be on merit. So it might depend on who pulls out of the All-Star game if Kutch fits. But yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, if you're going to say ability-wise, like who should be here, who's not from the Pirates, I mean, it's clearly Bednar. I have no issue with that.
Yeah, totally. And good call on the Waino. That's a good one there, because especially I also like that. Just to go with that sidetracked is, yeah, I mean, it's nice in an All-Star game to have moments like that, to go back to the Jeters, to go to the Cabreras. Like it's a neat moment for baseball, and it's what's good about baseball, right? So
yeah. And I mean, I think the game needs to remember what it is, and I don't mean like baseball holistically. I mean like literally the All-Star game. I mean, it's entertainment, right? It should be like pomp and circumstance. You have guys like that who are stepping away. Like, give them one more time around their buddies. Like let Waino come in and pitch an inning and celebrate himself. And I love what they did with Pujols and Miggy and whatever. Like bring those legends back for a year, and McCutchen absolutely fits that. But you've got an 840 OPS, and you're saying you're playing another year, and I'm not done. Like, I think I might kick the can if I'm Manfred. Like, that's okay.
Yeah, might need to kick that can a couple of years at the very least.
Yeah, he's doing
well. Hopefully you get to see a Waino or a few of those guys entering the twilight here in Seattle in a week's time, 8 days. I got that right?
Yep, something like that. I fly out Saturday. We're only in Erie like 2 days. I think we're going back Wednesday afternoon. And then fly out there on Saturday for the Futures game, the draft, all kinds of stuff. It's going to be your first one of these on the beat. They don't plan on sleeping much.
No intentions of that, but thankfully should have mom's cooking back at home to get me through that. So I won't be worried about anything except writing and eating. I think that's the plan.
It's a good way to live, brother.
All right, I think we're all good over here. Should we let you get back to the kiddos in Erie?
Good talk. I like it.
Good talk as always. And be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay updated with all of our latest content, especially here about Buccos baseball. If you haven't already, check out our subscription deal in the description. $6, 6 months of access. Plenty of sports news to keep up with, and don't want to miss it. We'll catch you all next time.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you liked the video, please like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you enjoyed it on Apple Podcasts, please rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. For 6 months of digital access to post-gazette.com for just $6, click the link down in the description.